Today, I want to look at a subject that is a natural outgrowth of things that we've looked at during this series of videos on a Wednesday. We've looked at ideas of faith and what faith really is, trusting in something, but this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, where what we think in our own minds and what we can conceive of, or possibly what we worry about, is superseded by what the word actually says, and then operating according to what the word says and not our own emotions. We looked in the video Truth at what truth actually is, and we can see that it has this idea, the word emet, of something that is firm, steady, reliable, that it comes from the same root word, which is aman, which is the root of emunah, which is faith, and it's also the root of amen, what one would say at the end of a prayer. Saying amen at the end of a prayer is kind of like, in English, if you were to say truth, that's kind of what it means. But the word of Elohim, of course, is truth, and it's steady and it's reliable. If we look, this is the word emet, Gesenius's entry: firmness, stability, perpetuity, faithfulness, fidelity. That's what it is for something to be true. And of course, the word of Elohim is truth. It is emet. Presumably you believe that if you're watching this video. 1 Peter 1:22 to 25 says, "Now that you've cleansed your souls in obeying the truth, through the Spirit, to unfeigned brotherly love, love one another fervently with a clean heart, having been born again, not of corruptible seed, or reborn, but incorruptible, through the living word of Elohim, which remains forever. Because all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem or the glory of man as the flower of grass. The grass withers, and its flower falls away. But the word of Elohim remains forever. It is emet, it is unchangeable, it is steady, it's reliable." Now, in the world, we can rely on the reasonings and the reckonings of the world, and we can fall away from that which is true, and we can not appreciate things through the filter of what is true, and appreciate things through the filter of the world, or through the snares of Hasatan, when he comes with something which is against the truth and tries to sway us towards that. We see in Isaiah 36:6, "Look, you are trusting in the staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it shall go into his hand and pierce it." Of course, Egypt is an idiom of the world. If we lean on the world to support us, we've got a vast array of ideas, competing ideas about what is true upon which to lean. But if we lean upon those things, it will not do us good in the end. The thing that one is to lean upon, or that will benefit one to lean upon, is the Word, the one thing which remains forever. James 1:5-8 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it shall be given to him. But if he should ask in faith or belief, not doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For that man should not think that he shall receive whatever from the Master. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways." So if somebody asks for wisdom, doubting that they will receive it, then they are unstable. They are not founded upon the Word. They're not reliant upon the truth. And as such, they are unstable. If you say one thing in your mind, you think, well, the word of Elohim is true, but your actions are different, or show that you actually believe differently, because otherwise your actions would be in line with what you say in your mind, then you are unstable. You're not founded on the truth. There's no stability there to lean upon. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in Yehovah with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Know him in all your ways, and he makes your paths straight." And it's this reliance upon him, rather than the things that we might be able to get from here and from there, little bits of wisdom or purported wisdom. Rather than that, we lean on Yehovah and say, I don't know, I have no idea, but I know that Elohim says this, and I trust this as truth, as dependable, as reliable. We would not be able to master all of the fields of knowledge that there are, for example, and people who are expert in those fields may well disagree widely with one another, but the unifying factor is Yehovah. He is the one that can be relied on, that is more knowledgeable or wise than everyone in the world put together. We can get an approximation of a subject in our minds and think that we know more than we do, but it is Yehovah who truly knows. Matthew 7:24-27, the end of the Sermon on the Mount, Yeshua says, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Now the man who builds on the rock doesn't have to have an intricate understanding of the nature of the rock, and in fact it might lead him astray, trying to understand the rock. That's not what we are to do. what we are to do is trust, believe in the rock. As someone who's walked on crutches recently for stability, I know that you lean on what you trust. So leaning on Yahovah is trusting Yahovah. It's believing in Yahovah to support you. So whatever the events are in your life, you need to trust Yahovah throughout whatever it is. And he says that he is reliable and can be trusted. So you might look at events and say, well, these events are not what I would choose. But we need to trust that Yahovah understands these events in a greater context. If everything was brilliant all the time, then it would require no trust. That testing of your faith would never come. Psalm 121 is a scripture that we should put in our minds, that we should trust in and stand on. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from Yahovah, maker of the heavens and earth. He does not allow your foot to be moved. He who watches over you does not slumber. Ask yourself, is that true? Or is it poetic falsity? See, he who is guarding Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Yahovah is your keeper. Yahovah is your shade at your right hand. The sun does not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Yahovah keeps you from all evil. He guards your soul. Yahovah guards your going out and your coming in now and forever. And you could ask yourself, do you operate as if that is true? As if that's your underlying assumption? Or do you operate as if it's not true? And actually, there's Yahovah is not as intimately involved in your life as he says that he is. Just because you look at things and you come to conclusions about them. Our conclusions should always start and end with the word of Elohim, even in the face of things that look to be contrary to that. Isaiah 26:3-4 says, the one of a steadfast mind you keep in perfect shalom, for he trusts in you. Any emotional turmoil is because one is not of a steadfast mind. You would be, or one would be in perfect shalom if one trusted in Yahovah. Trust in Yahovah forever, for in Yahovah is a rock of ages. He is the rock upon which we build our house. And if you trust in him, then there is nothing that will disturb your shalom. Charlie, for me, went through the persecution of the early church, let's say, in the Torah portion just past Torah portion Balak, if you want to go back and see it. But those people were in perfect shalom, even though the events which befell them were horrific. They were blessed, but they were of steadfast mind. They weren't double-minded. They were in perfect shalom through those events, and that's a blessing that the outside world would never appreciate, because they would think, well, if I was in that situation, I'd be a complete mess. Matthew 6:27-31 says, "And which of you by worrying is able to add 1 cubit to his lifespan? And why do you worry about clothing? Note well the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And I say to you that Shlomo, in all his esteem, was not dressed like one of these. But if Elohim so clothes the grass of the field, which exists today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more you, O you of little belief?" So Elohim is there, if you like, in the background of everything, or the foreground of everything, controlling all things. And we tend to worry about things when what we actually do is remove him from the equation. If we thought about the situation and we're worried about the situation, what we've actually done is take Yehovah out and remove him, because if he was there in the situation, you would presuppose a different outcome. So Yeshua says, worrying for one is worthless. What's it going to achieve? And for another thing, consider that Elohim is the one who governs all of the things that you might be worried about. Leave it to him. The thing that we are to deal with is, our interactions with other people, our own personal morality. Elohim doesn't try to load things on us that he has taken responsibility for. He's created the world as it is, and he governs certain things. What he requires of us is that we would choose what is right. We would choose good rather than evil. He is much more capable, if you want to put it like that, of dealing with all the things that we might worry about. But if you worry, then what you're doing is you're looking at the situation as if there is no God. In Psalm 27, we get the attitude of mind that we should have. Yehovah is my light, my deliverance. Whom should I fear? Yehovah is the refuge of my life. Whom should I dread? When evildoers come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamps against me, my heart does not fear. Though battle comes up against me, even then I will be trusting. One matter I asked of Yehovah, this I seek, to dwell in the house of Yehovah all the days of my life, to see the pleasantness of Yehovah and to inquire in his temple. For in the day of evil he hides me in his sukkah. In the covering of his tent he hides me. On a rock he raises me up. And now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I sacrifice in his tent with sacrifices of sounding. I sing, yes, I sing praises to Yehovah. Hear, O Yehovah, when I cry with my voice, and show me favor or grace, and answer me. To my heart you have said, seek my face. Your face, Yehovah, I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in displeasure. You have been my help. You do not leave me, nor forsake me, O Elohim of my deliverance or salvation. When my father and my mother have forsaken me, then Yehovah does take me in. Teach me your way, O Yehovah, and lead me in a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not give me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen up against me, and they breathe out cruelty to me. What if I had not believed to see the goodness of Yehovah in the land of the living? Wait on Yehovah, be strong, and let him strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on Yehovah. Which is another important point. Yehovah does not work on our schedule. He works on his, and part of what he wants to achieve is that we would trust in him throughout adversity. Though an army was camped around us, we would believe that we could stand on his word and that we could triumph, because he has told us that he is with us. That is true faith, true belief. And as I said at the beginning, the idea of standing on the word is an outgrowth of such faith. Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim. And the peace of Elohim, which passes all understanding, shall guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yeshua. So Paul says a number of interesting things here. He says to make your requests known to Elohim, and then essentially not to worry about it. But he mentions the peace of Elohim, which of course would be his shalom. It says it surpasses all understanding, and I think that this element of trusting in Yehovah does surpass all understanding. What I mean by that is I don't think that Elohim could explain to you how everything was going to turn out. We tend to think of things kind of one move at a time, whereas Elohim, if he was to explain what he was doing, he would need to take a small slice of what he was doing. That's how I think of it anyway. But regardless, the shalom of Elohim guards our hearts and minds. It is this feeling of peace, just knowing and trusting in Yehovah, which you could never replicate, you could never duplicate. It surpasses all understanding. I think, speaking for myself, we like to understand how something works, why something works in the way that it does. But Elohim created everything, so his level of understanding of things is just, it wouldn't even compare to ours. He wouldn't be able to explain it to our understanding. it wouldn't make sense for him to do that unless he was to kind of go back and regress into our way of thinking in order to explain something. Just like he said to Job, where were you when I did this, when I did that? And he speaks of great wonderful things that Job has no conception of. That's why it's good to trust in him. That's why it's good to stand on his word and not get too into the weeds on things, but just to do what he says to do. Live as he says to live. Be kind to one another. To be moral in the way that he defines morality. That's what we have that we can control. We can't control the other events. And if we're worrying about them, then we are really imagining a situation where he doesn't govern those events also. In Matthew 6:34 it says, "Do not then worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow shall have its own worries. Each day has enough evil of itself." And this is what we have to deal with, what is within our control, what is presented to us on a daily basis. That's enough for us without worrying about what might happen tomorrow. That's something that we is above our pay grade, that we leave with Yehovah. If we're worried that it might be bad, then what does that say about how we understand Elohim to be? Do we really think that he is cruel, or whatever the case may be? Make your prayers and petitions to him. If a son asks for a fish, is Yehovah the type that would give him a snake, to use Yeshua's example? Of course, we know academically what the right answer to that is, but we need to actually take on board what the word says and make that our entire lives, to walk around as if Yehovah is there as a shield, not as the devil tempted Yeshua, that if he cast himself from a high place, angels would come and tend to him, because as Yeshua pointed out, that is tempting Yehovah. But to just live our lives and trust that he is the one who guides our steps, and we read his word and we learn about him, and we seek to emulate him in the things that are good to emulate him in. Obviously we don't take wrath or vengeance upon people, whereas he can, but we seek to learn of Elohim and implement his word into our lives. In doing so, we take control of what we can take control of and leave everything else to him. It's really something that we have to take on board as a mindset. But this isn't an admonition against people who worry about things. All people worry about things. Yehovah's answer to worrying about things and his recognition that people will worry about them is seen in Deuteronomy 17 to 18. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out. Do not be afraid of them. Remember well what Yehovah your Elohim did to Pharaoh and to all Mitzrayim. It is good to remember the works that Yehovah has done in the past, that he is capable of dealing with anything which might come up in our lives. But he says, when you say in your heart, this is something that is going to happen, when you say in your heart, I can't do it. These nations are greater than I'm unable to drive them out. And I think there is something fundamental in that. I am unable to drive them out. He is able to drive them out. And I will stand on his word, and I will trust in it. Psalm 40:4-5 says, Blessed is the man who has made Yehovah his trust, and has not turned to the proud, and those turning aside to falsehood. O Yehovah my Elohim, many are the wonders which you have done, and your purposes towards us. There is no one compared to compare with you. I declare and speak, they are too many to be numbered. So it's all about his purpose. We trust in what his purpose is, and that he hasn't purposed evil towards us. Not that he couldn't, or that he wouldn't be within his right to do that. Just that he says that he will do good to his people. When he brings evil upon his people, he has a specific purpose for it. So not to suspect that things in the future will be according to him bringing evil on his people, to know his character, to know how he is, and to trust in his name, to trust in his character, his reputation, his fame. Jeremiah puts it like this: your words were found and I ate them, and your word was to me the joy and rejoicing of my heart, for your name is called upon me, O Yehovah Sabaoth. Psalm 36:5-9 says, O Yehovah, your kindness is in the heavens, and your trustworthiness reaches to the clouds. That's how he is. That's how we should expect him to deal with us. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your justices are a great deep. O Yehovah, you save man and beast. How precious is your kindness, O Elohim, and the sons of men take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They are filled from the fatness of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your pleasures. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light, which is interesting as to whether that is talking about his spiritual light in whichever instance there. We don't know, but it's quite an image to have in our heads. In his light we see light. Psalm 16:8-11 says, I have set Yehovah always before me, because he is at my right hand, I am not shaken. Therefore my heart was glad, and my esteem rejoices. My flesh also dwells in safety. For you do not leave my soul in Sheol, neither your kind one to see corruption. You show me the path of life. In your presence is joy to satisfaction. At your right hand are pleasures forever. This is how Yehovah has revealed himself to be, and it's how we should apprehend him when we are thinking particularly of things in the future. He has given us great promises, and the things that are outside of our control are thankfully in his. Yehovah willing, I'll see you next week.